when he walked out of Madison Square Garden, it was bananas.
Really?
It
Went
was,
crazy.
the whole place was cheering. He walks out to Kid Rock's American Badass with Kid Rock and Tucker Carlson walking in like the right-wing Avengers. And the place went nuts. I'm telling you, the fucking cheers of the crowd were nuts. I mean, it was overwhelmingly in support of him, and it lasted a long time. I mean, it was a roar. I mean, you had to hear what the crowd sounded like before he walked in, and then he did. I mean, it was just overwhelming cheers for like over a minute. I mean, just imagine a minute of people screaming at the top of their lungs. Yeah.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about Joe Rogan, who just recently declared that Trump, Don Jr., Tucker, Dana White, and Kid Rock, etc., walking out together at a UFC match was like watching the right-wing Avengers. And I can't lie to you guys, he might got a point here, okay? I mean, I'm just saying, if I had to imagine a right-wing Avengers, again, I'm not sure if I could create a better group than that group, right? Trump, Dana White, Kid Rock, Tucker, okay, all walking out, Don Jr. walking out together at a UFC match. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, especially considering how Kid Rock apparently is out here confronting the CEO of Bud Light / Anheuser-Busch about them pushing the woke radical left agenda on children.
Speaking of that UFC fight, I'm standing there with our favorite president.
Right.
And someone comes over to like the CEO of Anheuser-Busch standing right behind you.
Right.
So I go to the POTUS, I'm like, hey, that's the CEO of Anheuser-Busch. Trump's like, you want to go talk to him? I'm like, I do. So me and him go over. We actually had a great conversation.
Really?
Because, you know, if you put this in context, why did this start? It's like, you know, I told him that night, I go, you signaled to a lot of people like myself, like-minded people. Put the trans thing aside for a minute, right? I was like, but by sending that can to the trans kid, you kind of signaled to us you support this lifestyle, and more importantly, like men being in women's sports or in my granddaughter's locker room. Most of us draw a hard line right there. Nah. What are you
have
doing?
A granddaughter? You're like 40,
2 grandkids.
You're like 42 years old. Well, go ahead.
It gets cold in Detroit, Sean.
Yeah, I guess it does.
So I said, you signaled that to us. I said, but speaking of, I was like, you know, if someone wants to be trans, I was like, I didn't rip that kid. I said, F you guys. I said, I didn't even say boycott or cancel. I said, F you. I said, what are you doing? Injecting yourself into this conversation, these polarizing social issues. I was like, you know, you could be doing so much more positive stuff, just making us laugh and drink beer. But I said, if someone wants to dress up like a girl, they want to be transgender or whatever, a lot of people fought and died for them to do that. Go for it. We can coexist. You know, in public places, you might not be my first dinner invite, you know what I mean? And I'm probably not yours. And if you're gay, no one cares anymore, right? We all got gay family members, gay friends, gay co-workers. It's like, cut it out. Just be gay. You know, I'm not going to clap louder for you.
You know what I hear you saying? You believe in freedom.
Yeah.
But if you want to indoctrinate kids in school,
that's right. I tell my. Let me say this to the trans and gay community right now. Be yourself. You're cool with me. I'm cool with you. That's how most people are. But as soon as you bring our kids into this, that's where you're going to bring hatred into it.
Yeah. So allegedly, you have Trump and Kid Rock, according to Kid Rock, confronting the CEO of Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light, right? About, you know, hey, we believe that you are supporting an agenda that we just don't support being pushed on children, right? I mean, again, that to me seems like something a right-wing Avenger would do. I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. I don't think Joe Rogan is too inaccurate there, okay? But it's commentary like that that really makes the lefties and their heads explode when it comes to Joe Rogan, because really the guy is more of an independent. He's not really left-wing or right-wing. I mean, if anything, I would probably classify him as a classical liberal, right? But because he doesn't 100% agree with the left, more specifically the far left, he gets a whole lot of backlash, okay? Because, you know, Joe Rogan used to be public enemy number 2. Now, we know public enemy number 1 is Trump, okay? I think Joe Rogan now is public enemy number 3 because Elon Musk has become public enemy number 2. But regardless, Joe Rogan still receives quite a bit of backlash because he questions the official narrative. that, hey, apparently is a right-wing thing, right? It is right-wing for you to not only disagree with the left, but to question the establishment narrative. Again, conversations like this is what really piss liberals off. Like, for example, Joe Rogan basically saying the obvious about how a lot of people, Trump supporters, other people included, believe that the prosecutions against Trump are political.
Yeah. And the people that love Trump, they feel like this is a witch hunt. And they feel like all the things he's getting indicted for are bullshit anyway. Not only does it not work, but it kind of hardens their position that he's being targeted. And that these are like the actions of a banana republic. You take your political rival and you arrest him. And specifically, you charge him with things that you're fucking guilty of. Like the documents, like the classified documents. Biden's guilty of the exact same issue.
Yeah, so it's takes like that, in which Joe Rogan is simply pointing out a fact, which is that Trump supporters, well, a lot of Trump supporters, not just Trump supporters either, I mean, like independent thinking people, believe that, hey, the prosecutions against Trump are political because people like Biden can do the exact same thing and they don't face the same consequences. I mean, just recently news came out that it's expected that the investigation into Biden for his classified document scandal is going to come to a close and they're not going to do anything, right? Which, again, is something that was completely obvious from the beginning that they were going to let Biden slide because, again, this is a two-tier justice system. Now, again, pointing this out apparently makes you a right-winger, okay? And it will spark rage and vitriol and anger from people like Kathy Griffin and Mary Trump. Mary Trump being somebody who will have no political career or nobody will give a damn about what she has to say unless she was the niece of the former president. And Kathy Griffin, who again is a washed-up left-wing comedian. Nobody cares what these people have to say. And they really hate that Joe Rogan can say things on his platform like that, and people do care what he has to say. Again, they hate it so much that they had a meltdown session together, a cry session over Joe Rogan's influence, particularly when it comes to straight males. Take a look.
And then I have some straights, not a lot, but I have some straight guys that, listen to Joe Rogan and think Joe Rogan's a doctor and stuff. And they will say stuff to me because when Rogan is your only exposure to the news, you're going to believe it. Yeah. And they'll say, RFK Jr., he's a big environmentalist and he stands up to big pharma. I'm like, yeah, 20 years ago. And when you even tried to talk about the trial happening in New York court, they don't necessarily say fake news, but they kind of buy a little bit into the political persecution. And what scares me is I'm not just talking about Fox viewers. Like I said, I'm talking about, straight male comics, because I know too many of them. They really think Joe Rogan is the news. Politics are.
Well, they ain't good either, so.
Oh, and while I'm just crapping on Joe Rogan, because why wouldn't I crap on a guy with a giant audience? But anyway,
there you go.
I have to wonder, because when I first met him back in the day, he was a freaking road comic. Right. And he had a good act. He wasn't the best of the best. I don't think he would even say that, but he wasn't horrible. And then something happened where he decided to get all roided up. And I haven't seen him in many years, but the last time I saw him, I didn't even recognize him. And he became a UFC announcer, which is just, let's just take a minute. That's weird for a comic. I just want to say that we all kind of glossed over that because who in the world could have thought Joe Rogan would become an extremely powerful voice in politics and an influential voice, but he has $100 million a year contract, which has been reported. I've read in my newspapers that nobody reads anymore, but it's maybe 200 million. And I think that has to influence why he wants to cozy up to Alex Jones.
Of course it does.
But that's so insane. How are you in a room with Alex Jones and thinking this is just somebody with a different opinion? How do you get there?
Disinformation is very powerful and it's everywhere, especially when, we're all so siloed. So, there's no competing narrative. There's nothing challenging. And also people want to hear what they what fits in with their beliefs anyway. But yes, the idea that somebody like Joe Rogan, who, you know, has like the IQ of a turnip, is so influential is kind of terrifying. And the other thing that seems to be this narrative is if you're on the left, if you are for the greater good, you don't really deserve to make money. You know, you should do it all for free, and you should just be struggling financially. Only people who are grifting and selling their souls should be rich. It's completely crazy.
Yeah. So you guys see that, you heard that, okay? This is a cope session. That's what you call that. That's a cope session from two angry liberal women, okay, who are probably upset that Trump is leading Biden in the polls. But in this cope session, they're mad that Joe Rogan has influence, right? Joe Rogan has a large audience and they don't, right? Which kind of backs up my theory in regards to why Joe Rogan gets so much hate and vitriol, so much backlash. The reason why is because a lot of these people in the media are simply jealous of him, right? They're jealous of the fact that Joe Rogan can gather a large audience and they can't, right? Because for them, okay, their whole grift is pushing the establishment and far left narrative, okay? Like, for example, Mary Trump. Nobody would give a damn about what she has to say at all, unless she was the niece of the former president, okay? If she did not have Trump in her name, she would never get on TV, right? Nobody would care one bit about what she has to say. Her whole claim to fame, right, is literally being anti-Trump, right? Waging a crusade against her uncle, which I personally believe is despicable. I mean, talk about selling out your family, right? She sold out her family name for money and fame on liberal networks like MSNBC, and she's still bitching and complaining about the fact that nobody gives a damn about what she has to say, that she can't get the same type of audience as Joe Rogan, okay? Same for Kathy Griffin, left-wing comedian, who, by the way, again, you know, in my opinion, shouldn't be allowed on liberal media at all, considering how she basically put out what I would believe to be hate imagery towards the president, okay? A depiction of him beheaded, which, again, is despicable. Again, these people are so jealous, right? They're so jealous that Joe Rogan, who is independent, can gather an audience and people care about what he has to say, and people don't care about what they have to say, right? But maybe, just maybe, there's a couple things going on here. Maybe, just maybe, Joe Rogan is more talented than these people. And also on top of that, everybody knows that Joe Rogan is not a paid left-wing mouthpiece, right? Where they're not just going to come out here and just give you the left-wing establishment narrative. He's actually going to do some critical thinking, right? Because there's not much critical thinking required to come out here and to say, Orange Man bad, I hate Trump, Trump is the worst thing, he is the devil, he's the Antichrist, right? Not much thinking is required. Not much critical analysis or real political acumen is required to come out here and say this. But this is basically how people like Kathy Griffin and Mary Trump have, you know, made their money. But yet, again, despite all this, despite being coddled by the mainstream liberal media and praised in the mainstream liberal media for their attacks against Trump, they still have zero influence, right? They have no influence, okay? And again, this is where a lot of the hate and vitriol for Joe Rogan comes from, okay? You guys remember CNN's crusade against Joe Rogan? Okay, there was like editing video to make Joe Rogan look sicker than he actually was when he had COVID or something like that. They were making up all types of things about the medicines that Joe Rogan was making. I mean, just straight up lying. Well, again, part of the reason why is because as journalists, these people are offended. They literally are offended. They're hurt. They're personally hurt by the fact that Joe Rogan is more credible, that people watch Joe Rogan more for news than they watch the mainstream liberal media. Okay, people trust Joe Rogan more than they trust CNN or MSNBC, maybe even a Fox News. And that pisses these people off. That pisses off the establishment and their talking heads to no end. Because they understand that somebody like Joe Rogan represents probably what I would define, in my opinion, the independent man, right, in this country. Like the person that's not overtly left, they're not overtly right. They see some good things on the left, they see some good things on the right. They're also, able to, see through the establishment narrative. They're not necessarily buying into everything. Again, they critically think about what's happening in this country, what's happening in the world, and what we're being told, right? And again, they can't have that, right? You can't do that, okay? You can't do that. This is why they're attacking Elon Musk. This is why they originally attacked Trump. Because again, he pushed back against the narrative. When Trump came out here and said that the Iraq war was a disaster and that they lied about weapons of mass destruction on a presidential debate stage, right? A GOP debate stage. I mean, again, the craziest place ever to say something like that. That's when he became public enemy number one, right? When he said that. Okay, because then at that point, the establishment said, okay, this guy is a threat. And ever since then, they haven't stopped attacking him, right? Again, this is the reason why they attacked Elon Musk. This is why they can't stand Joe Rogan, is because these people do have influence, right? And they have more influence than, again, the liberal media talking heads that get put on a pedestal to regurgitate talking points fed to them by the DNC and the Democrat Party. Nobody gives a damn about what they have to say. And again, it really hurts these people to their core, right? They can't stand it. They can't stand it. So again, they come out here and they, do these coping sessions where they try to pretend like, oh, it's so terrible that people listen to Joe Rogan, right? As if Joe Rogan, again, is some far-right extremist, right? You see how anti-free speech they are? You see how they can't tolerate difference of opinion? Oh, how can you share the same room with Alex Jones? Or how can you be on the same show with Alex Jones as if that's just a difference of opinion? Well, it is, right? That's literally what it is, okay? Alex Jones or any other so-called extremist, yeah, I don't believe in ruining people's lives because, they disagree with me politically. Sorry, right? I don't believe in smearing them as bigots because they disagree with me politically or anything like that. Yeah, I do think that, a healthy country politically, we should all be able to sit in a room together and talk, okay, and disagree with each other politically without, losing our minds. But again, apparently that's something that is a foreign concept to the left. And essentially, these people are admitting it in this coping session. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.